Hi, everyone. This is James Giglio, CEO of MVP Interactive, and welcome to the MVP Podcast. Our podcast will bring insight to a range of topics involving technology, consumer engagement, experiential marketing, and general business-related subjects. This show will host not only our great roster of clients from the professional sports world, along with Fortune 500 brands and agencies, but other entrepreneurs and startups. We hope our podcast brings value, and thank you for listening. For general inquiries or topic requests, please email mvppodcast@mvp-interactive.com, and please subscribe to our YouTube page and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and SoundCloud with account name MVP Interactive. Welcome, everyone. This is the third edition of the MVP Podcast, and today's special guest, HTTR, is Jennifer Hinkle with the Washington Redskins. Jennifer is the Vice President of Digital Marketing. So, Jennifer, welcome. Thanks for coming along and doing our podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's always nice to see you pass through Philadelphia, and even though that we're rival cities, it's like all of our clients, we develop some strong relationships and friendships as a result of that. So thanks so much for your time.
Glad to be here. Glad we are not playing the Eagles today, too.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, great. So we wanted to come in and talk about, you, obviously, and the work that we've done together with the Redskins and, through some of your sponsors as well. And but I think it would be helpful if we learn a little bit more about your role as the VP of digital marketing and knowing you really have your hands in a lot of productions or a lot of tasks with the team. So tell our listeners a little bit about your background and what you do with the Redskins.
Sure. I oversee all of our digital properties at the Redskins. So everything from websites to social to mobile to email database marketing, as well as emerging technologies. Started there, this will be season number 12. So I actually started there as an intern in PR way back in the day out of college, and then took a quick stint up the road to another team, and then came back to oversee digital, and it's obviously evolved a lot since I've been there. No social media presence when I first started, and really actually no Facebook for that matter.
Stone Ages, as we remember.
Stone Ages, yes. I can tell you about our first MySpace page if we really wanted to go backwards, but it's evolved a lot. We were running our e-commerce business when I first joined them. A lot of that's changed and been outsourced since, but it's been a fun ride. Our owners oversees our digital media committee for the league, so we've had an opportunity to do a lot of forward thinking and investments in the space, which has made it a lot more exciting. So,
yeah, absolutely. So, you really have your hands in, as mentioned, across a lot of responsibilities, all focused on digital and technology. And so, I think when we originally engaged in our discussions I guess 4 or 5 seasons ago now. We were approached, and you had a sponsor in mind that you were looking to really drive a destination or a fan base to a destination within the stadium. One of the things that I immediately noticed about the fan base is it's an absolute party at FedEx Field. Win, lose, or draw, you have some really strong, very strong fan base, rabid fans, dedicated. It's a great tailgate experience, but take us back in time a little bit, knowing that us as newcomers really viewing things on the technology side, but when you had originally thought of the idea for the social lounge that is now living in its 5th season at FedEx, bring us through that journey on, our introduction to you.
Sure. It was a very collaborative effort, which I think most of our sponsorships agreement tend to be, but was working with Shripal Shah at the time, and he had a real vision for what he thought was the next best thing. I think it all kind of coincided with the fact that going to a football game these days is a huge commitment, and we are very fortunate that our fans are super dedicated and they always come back for more, win or lose, and it is a great environment. And candidly, I think watching a sports environment, a sport in person is always the best environment, but it's tough now with, better TVs and Red Zone channel and things like that it makes it a little bit tough to get a draw. So I think what we were thinking first and foremost was the fan experience and how we could create an environment in our stadium that was super unique, something that you couldn't get at home, something that would really draw the fans in. At the same time, big uptick in the social space, so it was kind of a no-brainer to do something that crossed both of those two things together. And then, of course, the addition of the sponsor, where we could really position them in a space that they wanted to be in, and big brand. So branding wasn't necessarily their number one priority, and it gave us a chance to do something super unique. And I think it shows that, has it been 5 years now? 4 or 5?
We're headed into that's amazing.
But we've evolved it every year. We've made a bunch of additions. It still continues to be a destination. We have big plans for what we want to do again this year. It's been exciting, and no, it's probably not the number one reason why fans are coming to FedEx, but we'd like to think it certainly enhances their experience when they do come out and they can participate. I think one of the enhancements that, maybe I'm jumping ahead here, but I think the 360 VR, a lot of people look at that as something that's a little bit kitschy. Some people are using it for a lot of different types of business, and new stadiums are using it a lot for that vision. But I thought that experience alone was something that was super unique, and we were kind of first in the space to really immerse the fan into that pregame experience, make them feel like they're in the locker room with the team warming up. And I thought that turned out really well, and it's kind of proven itself. We took it to our game in London, and fans over there went nuts for it. We just rolled it back out for our draft day party, which tends to have a lot more kids. And it's a really neat thing. And I was happy that we were able to create a number of experiences to really complement that one, because it doesn't really get old when you're that big of a fan and you want to feel like you're part of the team. So
yeah, that's awesome to hear. And it was equally as fun and exciting to actually produce the content. One being a sports fan and being involved in technology. So when you're able to blend the two, it's really fun. It's a fun day at the office when we get to shoot and have the inside access. And I think it's despite the emerging technology that virtual reality is, I think the way that you guys integrated the helmet to the headset was also a perfect blend of what the fan passion allows for, or what they demand. And just the sheer fact of putting a helmet on is still such a popular and something that really most people aren't accessible to, right? And just something as simple as that, and then taking it to the 21st century with the VR and giving full access, like you said, is a perfect holistic experience to really get in the game, so to speak.
And you only got kicked off the field once, right?
That's right. Yes. I mean, coaches, have a different philosophy on us producers.
I think it's tough when you're in the business that we get a little bit jaded by these experiences, because it turns out to be kind of your everyday. And after, 11 seasons with the Redskins, that's a ton of games there. So I think it's neat to kind of recreate some of these things and take it. You realize that these are super unique for the majority of people, and that most sports fans are really passionate. So to give them something really unique, like putting on the helmet, which sometimes it's an oversight, or seeing the Super Bowl trophies, they're in our lobby every day. So those are the things that kind of bring it back down and realize that this is a pretty cool business to be part of. So
yeah, absolutely. So I would consider the Redskins as one of the legacy NFL teams, right? I mean, it's an organization that began in the 30s, 1937, I believe, and with that, the success. 5 NFL championships, 3 of which being Super Bowl. I think I have that right, but which obviously through the 70s and 80s develops a rabid and loyal fan base, winning those championships. How, from your perspective, do you really tie into the fan loyalty in your digital marketing, even when we're talking about technology? But what is some of the team's philosophies to really tie into the loyalty of the fan base?
Like I said, I think we're really fortunate to have that true history and loyal fan base. We've got fans in all 50, or season ticket holders in all 50 states. And it's a true testament to that group that's stuck around for a long time. And it's been a minute since we've had that Super Bowl win, and unfortunately had to watch the rivals up the road finally grab one of those. But I think something that has affected our business is that history. Our fan base tends to skew a little bit older. I don't think we're unique in trying to chase down that millennial market, right, and convert them into hopefully, fans in the stands down the road. But I think there's been a little bit reluctance really to take that next step forward into that true digital environment and launching things that are, the emerging technologies and the VRs that we don't necessarily think may appeal to an older fan base. But the reality is that all of this is shifting. And I think even our older fan base, majority of people do have a smartphone these days. And if whether they know how to use it or not, most at least know how to. My mom's expert at emojiing. Doesn't always answer, but yes, so she's got that down. But I think it's something that it was a challenge both from the front office side, just people being a little bit reluctant to change, and then also embracing that technology and which technology to embrace and what to invest in, because it's evolving so quickly. It's kind of tough to keep up with, and then making sure again that we're keeping that fan experience top of mind, because that's when people get more frustrated by the losing, is when everything else is a little bit tougher, right? So the history side has been a lot of fun to also work with, because you do find that there's really neat ways to now bring back up archives, and good old hashtag TBT has allowed us to resurface old photos and video content and things that still really remind our fans that they've been around for, the team's been around for 85 years. Yeah. They've been part of it through the whole thing, and hopefully just draw in new fans and younger fans because of that rich history and tradition.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome, and it's so unique. And you always do this. Despite again, we have loyalty to all of our clients, but to new clubs, there is that sense of history, and you really root for these legacy type teams, because there's such a rich history to the league and to the fabric of the NFL. And even digressing a little bit, but as awesome as it is to see like the Las Vegas Knights as a new franchise kind of take the helm and make it to the Stanley Cups, it's neat to watch the history really transcend performance on occasion. And so that was my first reaction in working with your organization, is the sheer loyalty, the passion, and what it's like to be a Redskins fan, because it is deep rooted into the fabric of the individual. So it's cool
and
experience.
I think the history transcends our progress. For a lot of people that were there during those glory days, but I think it's been a really important evolution for us to realize that can't just focus on history and that older player group, that there's a lot of actually, I learned a statistic recently that more Redskins alumni end up retired in the DC area than any other team, which is
how about that?
Something really fortunate, because we have a lot of players that are kind of newly out of the game, and fans just resonate to them just as much as some of these just famous Super Bowl players as well. So it's been exciting to try to leverage that more recent history to get some of that younger fan base engaged, because it is a true fraternity of players, and it's exciting. But
yeah, that's actually an interesting point, and it leads me to my next question, because again, being in the stadium during games, you're always passing Joe Theismann, you're seeing Doug Williams, and talk about the community outreach and what the team's involvement, maybe leveraging those players and kind of the passion of the fans to kind of bring community work together and your involvement there.
Sure. We have a phenomenal charitable foundation run by Jane Rogers, and she has truly revamped the focus of the foundation, how they're raising money, how they're spending money, and a lot of it goes unnoticed, I think, and they just do this tremendous job locally across DC, Maryland, Virginia, and various schools. They've started brand new programs. They've focused the younger age groups more on that reading curriculum and education, and that middle school group a lot more on fitness and activity. They recently launched a program, FIT program, with DC Public Schools, and it coincides with their actual curriculum. We know that a lot of these public schools are having gym, PE, those things removed from the curriculum due to budget cuts. So they've put this enormous amount of time and effort into this, and focused on a few really marquee programs throughout the year, whether it's around breast cancer survivors or it's around the school programs. We just did a really neat project with Dale Earnhardt, who's a huge Redskins fan. We built a library at a school, and just to watch the kids come in, we've got a group of players that constantly participate, active players, where they're spending their only day off during the week and season to volunteer in these schools and at these programs. And I think it's a testament to what that group has done to really get them to volunteer, get them to participate on that level. And a lot of them have their own foundations, which we've gotten involved with as well. So that said, we do get a lot of support from alumni. We get a lot of support from active players, and more recently, some support from full-time staff. We've tried to do the good old playground builds and things like that. It helps with team bonding anyway. But it's a lot of fun to cover, and I'd even say from the digital side, it's a lot of stuff that we really want to put out there and share, because it is that off-helmet content, and
right.
You really get a true look at these players that are dedicating so much time and effort into making positive things happen in the community. And our owner Dan Snyder has actually done a tremendous amount of work and financed a number of these projects in our community, and often doesn't quite get the credit that he deserves in that space. But it's just so super important, and I think as we're looking as to the future of the team, continuing to focus both on the field and off the field efforts is a huge undertaking, but it goes hand in hand at the end of the day. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, it makes all the reason of the way the team is generally valued within the top 5 most valuable franchises in the NFL, according to Forbes. And, when you really have a holistic approach with community outreach, creating a very loyal fan base, and then, creating a great game day experience, you're going to certainly win for your fans. With that, knowing all of such being important to sponsors, talk to us, to maybe some of our listeners on the corporate sponsorship side in terms of strategies, or what your relationship, the team relationship with sponsors, and when you look to new companies or sponsors to be a part of the organization, walk us through that and what you guys really look for in partnering with other businesses.
Sure. It's definitely shifted dramatically even since I've been around. I think the days of the sign in the stadium are a little bit dated. I think the branding piece is still very important, even to your top corporate sponsors, but I think there's been a huge shift in truly integrating them into the experience, and as a result, everything's become much more collaborative, which I think is really of benefit to both the brand and the team. So we're not just putting a logo on something that may be a little bit of a disconnect, but really trying to slow things down a little bit and plan things out so that the all KPIs are met from both sides, but also that we're really, again, it goes back to that fan and making sure that they are seeing this integrated experience and really relating the brand to what we're trying to accomplish as well. It's a feel good for everybody, so that it doesn't just feel like a forced advertisement.
Right.
It's challenging in that we work with so many different kinds of sponsors, both from what industry they're in to how big or small they are. So we've got local sponsors versus the national sponsors. We've shared some league sponsors and some are not league sponsors. So it's always a little bit of a challenge to work through all of those different vantage points. And everyone's kind of in a different place, but I think we're in a great position to kind of push our sponsors to do a little bit more, maybe do things that are a little bit edgier that they're not quite used to, because the sports landscape is changing and we're all trying to figure it out together.
Sure.
I don't think anyone has the right answer just yet, and it's maybe different tomorrow than it is today, but it's been really exciting because we've had the opportunity to work with some really, really big brands and done some really I think really valuable things in the space, and I think both groups can walk away feeling good about it and looking forward to re-engaging again the following year. The other thing that's changed a lot with the league, just even in the last 10 years, is they've truly created that 365-day experience. And for a long time, you talked about being year-round, but it's truly from the minute the season starts. Now it's training camp is really the start of the season, and it goes through December. Then you've got the playoffs, you've got Super Bowl. It goes right into the combine and draft and it's schedule release and everything. It's just kind of nonstop, and it's a huge opportunity from the digital side for content and behind the scenes, and again, community stuff that's going on year round. But also, I think the sponsors really benefiting now from, it's not just a 4 or 5 month engagement. They're truly integrated in with our brand year round, and there's a lot of surveys that go out that show that people really see true brand recognition through sponsorship marketing still to this day. So
that's a really good point, because as you were telling us about all the different sponsors that you work with, both big and small, having in the NFL, you're absolutely right that it is an every single 365 day experience for fans, and so I'd imagine that opens up a lot of opportunities in terms of inventory or strategies on using brand X at some other larger events, or maybe even creating a package for a smaller brand that can integrate into maybe a community event or something along those lines. And I'd imagine it creates a lot of value for all of your sponsors.
There's almost endless inventory. I mean, it really is bound by what our resources will allow us to pull off. Right. And some of these happen one after the next. But again, yes, you're right, the platforms and the social space, and combined with the social space, it really gives you just endless ideas and opportunities. And it's just a matter of executing them and at the right time in the right space to really get the most value out of it for the brand. But
yeah, very cool. All right. So knowing that we're in the off season here, is there anything that you can speak to in the future that we can tease, maybe for the upcoming season, maybe another event that you're putting on, or anything fans could look forward to, both on just the team end or maybe even the digital end?
Oh, I thought we were going to talk about my vacation. No, I think so. I think we're already, like I said, year round. We've been doing a lot of planning. Our next really big event is training camp. So we'll be down in Richmond again. This, I believe, is our 5th year down there. We've got a separate practice facility. We've done a lot trying to engage that Richmond community. We have a very strong fan base down there too, but just bringing our fans down and ramping up the tourism there has been a key goal for us, and trying to get fans out to see the team. And it's really a unique opportunity because training camp is, you're up close and personal there. It's a very small venue, and you can really see practice, and it's hot, and you feel like you're in the mix without the VR headset on. So I think we've got some new ideas there. We've got a relatively new partner in the space that we're trying to, they're very edgy and more on the entertainment side. So we're trying to come up with some new things for this season there as well. And I wouldn't say anything totally groundbreaking, but we are expecting some new stadium renovations that I think is going to open up opportunities around our social lounge, and
Awesome.
And I think it's going to drastically improve the fan experience. From the technology side, same thing. Easier ways for mobile ticketing and concessions and things like that are on the horizon. And then, of course, everyone's waiting for the announcement on the new location of our
that was my next
new
question.
stadium.
Yeah.
So still could be up to 10 years out, but
Are we getting a moat? That's the big question. We all saw the first rendering, and for our listeners, I'm not sure if you had seen this, but if you do a quick Google search on the Redskins' new stadium, it is designed with a moat around it, which looks amazing.
yes, that was for all Eagles fans to not. No, I'm just kidding. But that was a very, very early rendition of the stadium. I've seen some drawing since, but I get the impression it's all still kind of a work in progress. I think once they figure out the exact location, it'll probably really take off. So,
Yeah.
But I think what you can expect is that work, play, live environment. I think they're going for, which it'll make it a true destination. It's not just going to be that stadium that
Right.
is operational 10 days a year. It's going to be a much more year-round, community-friendly space. So they're planning for a lot of really neat athletic spaces and potentially some other event spaces. So I think it's going to be a really exciting time for the team, no matter which location they pick. Just to have something for all of our fans to look forward to.
Yeah.
And again, kind of doing things a little bit differently. We're going to make this a much more collaborative experience, trying to bring some of our bigger partners to the table early as part of the planning process instead of doing the retrofit thing later. So
Right.
hopefully this will go off without a hitch. But we still have a little ways out, but I think it's definitely an exciting time, especially if they announce it soon.
Okay. Well, that is a good cliffhanger, and maybe we end it right there with food for thought for the listeners. But on a serious note, it is awesome to kind of see this trend of the mixed use lifestyle facilities where you really need to incentivize the fans that are spending good hard-earned money to come out, and you don't want it just for 60 minutes of the game. You want a full day experience. So very cool to hear that that's definitely in the works, and we're excited to. Are we expecting news soon, or when's this announcement?
I've been hearing we're going to announce it in the next 6 months for the last year, so I'll leave it.
Okay. Okay. Well, stay tuned.
I do think it's probably going to be relatively soon, because I think there's a lot of planning that's going into all of this, and it's tough to really go for it if you don't know exactly where it's going to be. But above my pay grade, I'm pretty sure some people may know a little bit more than I do here. But I think it's going to be a really neat time. Yeah. I think there's going to be some really neat activations that we can engage fans more around year round. So that should be exciting.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Jennifer, I know that you're pressed for time, so thank you so much for joining us. This was as always, great time to spend with you, and we really appreciate you coming along.
Sure, anytime.
All right, thanks.